Welcome to our present state versus history on speaker. Here we are focused on the current events of our culture through the principles of our history, trying to make sense of the culture and the mindset of today. I am your host, Ray Mayfield. Well, okay, folks, here we are again back on the pod. It is the 16th of January, 2024. Can't hardly believe it. Here we are still under sub-zero temperatures here in southwest Missouri at negative 8 degrees this morning. They say that, however, today it's going to warm up and we're going to reach a whole 20 degrees out there. Wind chills going to hopefully break into the positive numbers. Oh boy, heat wave. So hope you're all staying warm. Hope you're all keeping your water running and all those necessities of life to move. Wish everybody's doing well. Appreciate everybody listening to these podcasts. We're going to continue on here a little bit with this dealing with a dictatorship through our military into this country and how our Constitution protects that from happening. But one thing's for sure, if we the people aren't aware of what our Congress and President legally can and cannot do, then I guess they could do whatever they want if we don't stand up and stop it. You know, the whole key to this country's success is the fact that we, the people, are really the government. We seem to have lost that mindset and understanding because, you know, Congress can pass no law that is effective if we do not submit to it. And the bottom line is, you get into some of these philosophers we've talked about in the past, you know, with Mr. Blackstone and different ones, John Locke, and their principles of law and order and the things that have been established, not because, you know, one particular group of people say so, because it's established facts across the board. The things that all laws require in order to be law. And in this country, we the people are the government. We the people have afforded our Congress and our federal government certain powers, which undoubtedly they have encroached way beyond the scope of what they were originally intended to be operating within. But if we do not submit to these nonsense laws that they come up with, then there is no law at all. And if the members of our armed forces understand our Constitution and the boundaries that have been placed upon our Congress and the things, then when they declare an order that is outside of the confinements of what they have been entrusted to do, then no general is obligated to abide by that ruling or order, because it is not upheld by our Constitution. This is the reason why when they're sworn in, they do not take an oath to defend the Congress or to defend the president or to defend any form of legislation or body of government. They take an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. And so I'm going to keep dealing with some of this stuff that they've been running around with, this propaganda machine about how, you know, if we get a certain person in office, then we're going to have this military dictatorship. And that is just simply not legally possible in this country. And I'm not saying that they can't pull some strings and make things happen. I've seen the Democrats do things already that I didn't think this country would stand up for and allow to take place, that are illegal according to our Constitution. And we've allowed this stuff to continue. But I believe mainly the reason these things are allowed is because the people just don't understand what is legal and what is not legal in the forms of the conduct of our legislative branches. So anyway, I want to thank you for helping us out here. Check out our website, our present state versus history on Spreaker podcast, which I'm sure that's what you're listening to on this now, and that same Facebook page, our present state versus history. That truegospelchurch.org website, you'll find those links there to those many things that I've mentioned multiple times, the University of Christian Studies and seminaries. I can't say enough about those folks and the programs they've put together if you want to further your formal studies. The National Center for Constitutional Studies has put forth some fabulous material if you want to study the Constitution of the United States. Just basically the operations of our Constitution and what our forefathers went through to create that Constitution and what was going on in the days that they were meeting and having the conventions, putting all this information together for us. Goes over most of this stuff that I'm bringing out in this Constitution, about our Constitution rather, is not my idea of what things are. It's the Constitution of the United States by the law. It's the things that used to be taught in our school system on a regular basis. It used to be commonplace knowledge. In fact, most of what I'm reading to you comes right out of textbooks that can be used in the school systems, and private school, public school, either way, college courses, dealing with the study of our Constitution. So I'm not making stuff up. I'm not trying to assert my opinions and my viewpoints about certain things. We're just talking about what is correct and what is not correct when it comes to the things of our Constitution. We have this propaganda machine out here in today's media that is swaying people. It's got people believing lies. They talk about all this misinformation stuff here before, where they're shutting down all these social media programs and everything else. And I'm completely against all of that. If you lie to me, it's my responsibility to determine if what you tell me is the truth or not. So, and once I determine that you're lying to me, then your credibility of what you speak to me from that moment forward is going to be a little questionable. So, you're not going to be able to continue to lie to me if I continually find that what you're telling me is not true. And I don't know why we don't apply that same standard to our media outlets and all these other avenues out here we're getting information. The American people just seem to be absolutely gullible. And we have come to this mindset to where anybody that's reaffirming what we've already concluded in our own mind, that's who we're going to listen to, rather than trying to find out what the truth is and change our mind if that's what's necessary. Sometimes what we believe is just absolutely unbelievable if we find out what the facts are concerning situations. There's been a lot of times that I thought I had something figured out, and especially dealing with the Word of God. And then as my knowledge and my understanding increased, then I would revisit some of these subjects and find out that the conclusions I had drawn were less than perfect, and sometimes they were just completely wrong. But when we find ourselves in those places like that, we have to be willing to make the change within ourselves. This is where the pride and the arrogancy of humanity comes in. These are the things that our forefathers understood far better than I believe I do in dealing with the creation of our Constitution. Is they knew the struggle that went on inside of the minds of men when they had power and influence, and when pride entered into the equation, and they didn't want to admit they were wrong and error, so they had to create a guideline that would keep us on the right course as much as possible. And that's another reason why they emphasized that this Constitution was only good, if you would, or effective. It would only last if the people that were involved with it were educated, moral, and free. And today, when it comes to the things of government and our Constitution, our education has decreased to the point to where it's almost non-existent. and our morality has decreased in this country to the point to where it's almost unexistent. That's my opinion, but from the things we see, there's evidence out there that support that. I mean, how many other times in history have we encountered teenagers just running into department stores and robbing, and no respect for the law, and on I could go. I don't want to get on that subject, but we see the fruits, if you will, of our behavior, and the way we are raising our children is a direct reflection to the morality of what's going on in the home of those children that are being raised. So all of that, just to get back to this fear mongering that's going on in our country about, certain president becoming a dictator and taken over by military force and on and so forth. And as I said in the last podcast, the president that is currently in office, by history, because of the party affiliation that he is associated with, it was probably more likely to be the one that would try to stunt like that than any president that we have had or will have in the future, as far as what we can see at this point, who would be elected. We don't know down the road, who's going to come around, but we do see who's running for the office right now in this current year of election. There again, I want to thank you for your support there, and check us out at truegospel.org website, and you can contact us there as well on the email. I keep forgetting to mention that we are available. Anybody that wants to, any of you out there that have any churches or anybody in the community area that want to do some teachings or what have you on these subject matters, or just flat preaching the gospel, you can contact us on that email address, and we can be available to come. We're working towards putting this all on the video. We're almost ready to start moving into another room that we've built to give us a little more room where we can set up a video camera thing, and we're going to try to get this thing expanded here in the next month or so, if I can get some technical support in here to get this podcast to the next level. So any support you can give us is appreciated. Importantly, share these links, share the access to these podcasts to folks that might be interested in supporting us. By all means, just getting the word out and getting this thing going is the biggest thing that we need right now, and any kind of financial support would be greatly appreciated. It costs money to keep this thing going, and we're not trying to create an income here. We're trying to just get this thing to where it's self-sufficient, and we've been at this now for going on 2 years, and it costs money to keep this thing going, and as it expands, it gets a little more expensive. So not complaining, just saying, if you think that what we're doing here is a worthy endeavor and you appreciate the information that we're trying to put forth, help us out whatever you can, spread the word, and help us move things forward. But back to the Constitution now. They're dealing with the this so-called armed dictatorship that they're afraid of. In Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 15. That's where you'll find it in your Constitution. If you don't have a copy of the Constitution, then if you get a hold of those folks at the National Center of Constitutional Studies, they have some pocket constitutions. They have a couple different printed deals. It's got the Bill of Rights in it. It's got the Constitution of the United States. It's all real handy, nice little books. They got a couple different versions of it, but they'll fix you up. But anyway, Section 1, Article 1 rather, Paragraph 8, Section 8, paragraph 15. Get my terminology right. This is what it says. It says the people of the states empower the Congress to call forth the state militia when needed to. 1, to execute federal laws. 2, to suppress insurrections in the states. Or 3, to repel an invasion from abroad. This is why they've been using that word insurrection so much, because they want everybody to think that that this rising up at the Capitol building on January 6th was an insurrection. Well, that's not true. What went on at the Capitol building was not an insurrection. It does not fall under the qualifications of an insurrection. It should not have happened. There shouldn't have been no vandalism of our Capitol building. However, this whole prosecution of the people being on the grounds of the Capitol building is a bunch of nonsense, because we, the people, own that building. We have every right to go into that building. Yes, there's security. Yes, there's protocol. And, there's some things that was violated as far as the entry and, and I saw pictures of them breaking windows and different things. And those people, they need to be prosecuted for vandalism and destruction of my property. But at the same time, those people walking through, looking at things inside that building, that is their building. And those people that were all respectful and just there for the moment, good grief, what did they really do? They didn't do anything. Yeah, the masses shouldn't have been in there, and we can debate all day long what's going on there, but we had all kinds of rioting and looting going on all over this country that year, and the Democrats and some of these folks that like that lawless behavior, they thought it was all fine. In fact, I listened to a radio station the other day, and he said that all the rioting and looting and stuff that went on throughout this country was okay in those cities because it exposed a problem that needed to be addressed. But what went on in January 6th at the Capitol building was just absolutely unexcusable. Well, excuse me, I'm thinking that all rioting is wrong and bad, and looting and destruction of property, and it all should be treated equally. So, I don't condone any of it. I don't condone what went on at January 6th, but at the same time, they're making a great big deal out of nothing. So there was no insurrection. That's the point there. But anyway, this provision gives Congress the right to order up a militia singly and in masses to accomplish any of the three purposes that we just read. Those are the only reasons that Congress can do that. It's noted that calling forth of the various state militias is not within the power of the president. It must be done by Congress. Even Congress is restricted by those three situations that we just read: to execute the laws of the Union and the requirements of the Constitution and the acts of Congress and in treaties. They are there to suppress the insurrection, which are open and active oppositions to execution of the law, and to repeal the invasion by enemies intended to militarily conquer and overthrow our government. Here again, both the president, who is not granted the authority to call up the militia, and the Congress, which is limited in the circumstances when the militia may be called, are prevented from achieving an armed dictatorship. That's right in the textbook. The statement that right there is teaching that they are both prevented from calling up an armed dictatorship. But yet we have this propaganda machine running around out here right now trying to get everybody scared that if a certain president is elected that we're going to have this armed dictatorship in the United States. No, the Constitution of the United States protects us from such behavior. And if the Congress or the president was to try and call up orders to make our military operate outside of this guideline, then the generals and all of the folks in the military, not one single person in our military would be obligated to follow that order because it is an unlawful order. It does not meet the criteria of law and requirement according to the Constitution. This is why these people want to use this word insurrection, because they want you to believe that they have the right to do what they did. There was no laws violated. In fact, the whole thing going on with the president calling for the vote to be recounted and investigated and put a hold on the certification of the electoral votes is perfectly within the rights of the president, because there was fraud suspected. And as long as there's fraud suspected, they have the right to investigate whether that election was proper. And now we look back on the whole thing and we know that there was more total votes counted than we had registered voters. So therefore, the whole thing should have been thrown out at every state. Forget where the corruption is. Forget who did what. We'll worry about that later. Throw the whole election out and do it again. Make everybody show up, show their ID, make everybody vote on a present accounted for vote, and recount the votes. It's pretty simple. But we didn't do that, did we? No. But that's the thing that most people would have really wanted. And, I don't care which side of the aisle did the corruption. I don't care which side. We've proven that the votes were inaccurate. We've proven that the whole election was jacked up. So just do it again. It's pretty simple stuff. But anyway, we'll move on here with the Article 1, Paragraph 8, or Section 8, Paragraph 16, which is also dealing with the organization of armed forces and the trainings. The militias are supposed to be in every state, you see. And so we now have a military for our federal government, and we now have our state reserves, which are our militia. And this is dealing with that. In Paragraph 16, it says, the people of the states empower the Congress to provide for the organizing, arming, training, or discipline of the state militias, and shall have the authority to govern or directly control any of the state militia which are called into the service of the United States. So the purpose of this is to bring an embodied amount of citizens together. So we have our federal troops, or our armed forces. We have our Navy and our Marines and our Air Force and our National Guard. And we have these put together for training of unification, so that we can be an effective force to move together as one power. And there's many arguments. You can go down and read Randolph's statements and Madison's statements and Corbin's statements and Nichols' statements, Wilson's statements, Madison's statements, dealing with the necessity for uniformity of our military to bring things together. And so these are the things we have today. They have the right to draw these members out of the states if necessary. Under the National Defense Act of 1916, the Congress organized the militia of each state into special reserve units of the Army, Navy, and eventually the Coast Guard, the Marines, the Air Force, and these constitute the National Guard, or organized militia of the states. All other men between the ages of 18 and 45 exclusively are members of the unorganized militia. That's all other members of the United States of America that are between those ages. They are considered to be members of the unorganized militia. Okay? They are subject to call by both the governor of the state and the Congress of the United States if circumstances warrant it. So in other words, every one of us, we talked a little bit about the draft, is what we call it the other day, and every one of us who are not members of the reserve for military in the state of Missouri has their reserve forces. People are active reserve members. Okay, we have active duty members of the federal government, which are people that have already enlisted to be servicemen under the rule of the commander-in-chief, which makes it the federal government. But all other members of the United States in the individual states are members of the unorganized militia between the ages of 18 and 45. you see, to be called up if necessary, if we're able-bodied. And that is the armed government. Those that have already signed up, that have already been walking in, they are submitted to the discipline of the unified forces, you see. And you can go back and read all of those arguments, like I said before, of all those men where they talked about what is necessary for that force to be reckoned with. Because if we're unorganized and we're just a mob gathered together, then we do not have the discipline to move in a common purpose and a common force with a common support of one another. And that's the reason for the forming of an organized military. But our Congress and our president are limited to the capacity of what those people can be ordered to do by our Constitution in these places. Just read Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 15 and 16 is dealing with those two areas. And I can see I'm way out of time again, so I'm going to have to leave it with that. So I hope you're staying warm. Appreciate your support. And until we see you again on the pod, have a wonderful day.